Neurochemistry of motivation. We are constantly bombarded by motivational videos and phrases designed to inspire us and propel us to complete necessary tasks. However, the initial surge of excitement these sources provide tends to last for only a brief period. The neuroscience of motivation explains this phenomenon. It involves a dopamine peak, which is the neurotransmitter associated with motivation, not pleasure as commonly misconceived. This chemical can temporarily drug us with motivation. But as you may have noticed, this effect is fleeting. Sometimes, watching a motivational video might energize us momentarily, perhaps enough to get us to the gym, but this kind of motivation quickly diminishes. Relying on such sporadic motivational spikes is insufficient for maintaining habits, discipline, or self-control. What we aim for is intrinsic motivation, which sustains over longer periods. This type of motivation can be likened to a reservoir being steadily filled, as opposed to a bucket with holes that leaks water no matter how much you pour in. Achieving our goals requires repetition and, despite seeming obvious, there are no shortcuts. There are smarter ways to diet, exercise, study, or work, but even with these, consistency and repetition are paramount. High motivation might peak at times, but it doesn't lead to achievements because it doesn't self-perpetuate. This leads many to struggle with the mental battles needed to engage in the repetitive actions necessary to reach their goals. For instance, one might desire a fit body but sees no significant progress due to a lack of consistency. These individuals likely lack the discipline and self-control, which I believe are the missing keys to unlocking the realization of one's goals. The bad reputation of discipline. Discipline often gets a bad rap. It's seen as dull, exhausting, and painful, conjuring images of rigidity. Anyone who has tried to adopt a more disciplined lifestyle and failed likely harbors negative memories of the attempt. I recall when I embarked on a strict diet to compete in a jiu-jitsu tournament. Being disciplined was essential at that time. I needed to arrive at the competition energized, well-trained, and at the right weight for my category. However, those 1 to 2 months were filled with hardship. I was under constant psychological stress, struggling with the diet and the demands placed upon me. After the tournament, which I lost in the first round, I attributed my defeat partly to the rigidity of my discipline. Once it was over, I reverted to eating fast food 3 times a week and neglecting my diet. It felt as though the strictness of my regimen eventually demanded a toll. Discipline through the eyes of the Stoics. The way the Stoics perceive discipline has entirely transformed my view of it. Now, discipline and self-control are no longer negative aspects but the missing pieces for feeling free, at peace, and happy with myself. The Stoics view discipline as a virtue, alongside other related qualities like perseverance, endurance, and self-mastery. They valued the intelligent use of one's time. For instance, Seneca advises against wasting our time and urges us to act now, given the shortness of life. Marcus Aurelius consistently points to nature, suggesting that it's in our nature to be industrious. When discussing work and industriousness, the Stoics aren't referring to the conventional notion of labor but rather to the act of working on oneself, such as focusing our attention, harnessing our intelligence, and developing our capabilities, with self-control and discipline being key among these. I myself am engaged in this philosophy and host a podcast on personal development, where we converse with neuroscientists, doctors, and high-performance athletes to try and comprehend the workings of the human being. We've been misled about discipline. So, what exactly is self-discipline? The dictionary describes it as the ability to do what you know you should do, even when you don't want to. However, I take issue with that last part, about doing things even when we don't desire to. If we genuinely had no desire to do something, why should we do it at all? Remember memento mori, you will die. Life is short, so why spend it on tasks that don't align with our desires? Often, we're swayed by others' opinions, external visions, and the environments we find ourselves in, chasing goals that aren't truly ours. When I speak of discipline, I'm not referring to waking up at 4:30 a.m. for a cold shower just because someone said it's essential. To me, A more accurate definition of discipline is the ability to repeatedly perform actions with a clear objective in mind. With this perspective, it's crucial to better understand how our brain's motivation and reward system works. Our brain releases dopamine, motivation, only when it anticipates a reward. Don't be mistaken, if you're not motivated, it's likely because you don't have a clear vision of the reward awaiting you upon engaging in a particular activity. You have motivation, but for the wrong things. If I told you that you'll get $100 for going to the gym tomorrow at 7:30 a.m., you'd have a clear and immediate reward, which significantly boosts motivation for that particular gym session. However, you might need to first address basic aspects of your biology to enable your brain to motivate you for tasks beyond physiological needs. For instance, if you're sleeping poorly, less than 7 hours a night, or even if you sleep for 7 to 8 hours but it's of poor quality, waking up frequently due to caffeine intake late in the afternoon, your brain will primarily be motivated towards rest. Sometimes, it's baffling why we're not motivated to diet or exercise, only feeling driven to procrastinate. This is because we're compensating for a basic physiological need, rest. The first step is to understand your biological and physiological needs to create a body and brain environment conducive to discipline and self-control. Don't expect to choose not eating McDonald's after work or school over a piece of fruit if you're not sleeping well. It's unlikely to happen. Hence, doing what we should do, or rather, what we want to do, knowing it's better for us, requires foundational discipline. This primary discipline, which comes before everything else, values essentials like sleep, nutrition, and physical activity. Everything you aim to do is modulated by chemicals, which, in turn, are influenced by these primordial habits. Therefore, you need basic discipline in sleep schedules, eating real food, meaning more natural, less processed foods, and engaging in physical activity. Physical activity differs from exercise. On days when we're not motivated to train or are short on time, nothing stops us from taking a 15-minute walk. Any physical activity releases chemicals, modulating the physiological environment and aiding in developing more discipline and self-control. Value your life. If we do what we ought to, those basics we've discussed, like sleeping well, eating healthily, exercising, and refrain from what we should not do, such as going out every Friday night and disrupting our sleep, we are already practicing discipline. It seems easy, simple, even trivial, to sleep well, eat right, and exercise. Yet, I assure you, your brain will need to undergo a learning period. Watching this video won't instantly motivate you forever to maintain these healthy habits daily. It's about learning a new way to live your life, a life where you value your time and health. Just as the Stoics did, they understood that life is short, and we will all die, making this experience finite. If that's the case, why should I spend my time on frivolous things, numbing the pain of not achieving my goals? In my view, the first step to discipline is to value yourself, your time, your rest, your diet, and your body, in 3 dimensions, so to speak: self-control, work, and goals, interwoven with Stoic philosophy in many ways. Although the Stoics sought inner peace, they were not idle. They knew that living in harmony with nature meant, for us humans, using our bodies and minds appropriately, being productive, active, and contributing to the whole. Epictetus argued that facing adversity made Hercules the hero he became. What would have happened to him had he not utilized his mighty physique and noble soul? The world presented challenges that called upon a strong man like him. Hercules was meant for more than a life of fast food, Netflix, and sloth. By following his natural inclinations, he not only became a hero but also contributed to society by eliminating many dangers to his fellow humans, creating a win-win situation for all. So, how exactly can we? Self-control is power. Building self-discipline, according to Stoic philosophy, begins with truly understanding the power of self-control. Epictetus suggested we should approach life as if it were a banquet. If a platter is passed to us, we should take our portion with moderation. If it hasn't reached us, we shouldn't reach out for it. If it passes by, we shouldn't try to stop it. But even more virtuous is the ability to reject what is presented to us, such strength is divine. This week, I spoke with a nutritionist on the podcast who happens to be vegan, a fact that interestingly demonstrates this power. She shared how challenging it initially is for a vegan to enjoy themselves at a barbecue without partaking in the food, learning to be content with just the company and conversation. This scenario is a testament to self-control, overcoming the social pressure and environmental influences that surround us. Self-control is a crucial part of discipline. It allows us to refrain from engaging in activities we shouldn't and to work towards a specific goal. For instance, writing an essay might seem straightforward, just requiring the necessary hours of research and writing. Yet, the reality often involves significant difficulty in focusing on the task, largely due to how we manage distractions. Unfortunately, we have no control over the distractions life presents us with. However, as Epictetus also taught, things outside our control include those not of our own doing, but we have control over how we respond to these external factors. When it comes to distractions, we can't control invitations to socialize, the release of the latest season of our favorite show, or people trying to draw our attention away. No matter how much we resist, the world will always offer numerous distractions that potentially shift our focus and influence our decisions. This is increasingly true with the technological advancements we are experiencing. Steve Jobs and the power of saying no. Steve Jobs once highlighted an interesting concept, saying no to good things. He believed that achieving focus and reaching goals is essentially about rejecting even the good ideas. In his journey, he was bombarded with good ideas constantly, but it was his focus on saying no to these good ideas that propelled Apple to the level of success it enjoys today. We, too, can influence the number of distractions we face by limiting our interactions with certain people and organizing our living environment according to our goals. However, ultimately, external factors, including our immediate surroundings, are somewhat left to chance. We don't control who our friends are, but what we can do is strengthen our self-control and focus to combat inevitable distractions, reinforcing our determination to achieve our desired outcomes. If we have the strength to reject what is placed before us, temptations will not derail us from our objectives. Self-control is about strength but requires practice. We must master it through exposure and repetition, not by succumbing to distractions, thereby bolstering our capacity for self-restraint. The moment the key turns. Our brain, particularly regarding cerebral plasticity, does not leap in learning. Whenever you're changing a habit or altering how you deal with life, our jug of self-control could serve as an example. It's crucial to understand that brain plasticity demands time, requiring exposure and repetition. Of course, to strengthen our neural learning connections, we'll need to sleep well, for instance. See how one thing connects to another. The more we conquer distractions and temptations in the sense of mastering them, the less power they will hold over us. Once these temptations and distractions have limited power over us, we experience what the Stoics call freedom within the context of discipline. This freedom allows us to do what we set out to do, illustrating how powerful it is. Circumstances and external stimuli no longer control our actions. At its core, discipline is about being capable of doing the things we intend to do. Diligence. How can we accomplish anything if we are not capable or unwilling to work towards it? From a Stoic perspective, work is not just important, it is what we were designed to do. Everything in the universe has its place, and humans are no exception. We possess unique capabilities to serve the collective whole. The Stoics viewed diligence, careful attention and dedication to a task, as a virtuous characteristic because it aligns with our natural inclination to work. In his meditations, Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself of his duties as emperor and as a human being. He would say to himself upon waking and feeling reluctant to leave the comfort of his bed, "I must go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain about if I am going to do what I was born for, the things for which I was brought into this world? Was I created to huddle under the blankets and stay comfortable?" This brings us to the present day, were we created to spend our time endlessly scrolling through TikTok or Instagram, or indulging in fast food? Yes, staying in bed is far more comfortable, but the Stoic emperor reminded himself that he was not born for comfort. This is our nature. He mentions how plants, sparrows, ants, spiders, and bees carry out their tasks. And if we look at our hunter-gatherer ancestors, it's the same, they worked and did what needed to be done. Today, we often fail to do so because of the multitude of distractions, from chemical additives in food to technological distractions well known to all. These living beings work to bring order to the world and participate in ways nature intended. So why do we hesitate to do what our nature demands? Of course, it's not about working day and night non-stop. The importance of sleep, rest, and relaxation is well acknowledged, and Marcus Aurelius also stated that nature has set limits to this, just as it has to eating and drinking. Thus, there's a time for relaxation and a time for work. What's needed is not exactly balance but contrast, a time of intense work followed by a time of intense relaxation. In my days, I clearly separate this by my mornings. Currently, this varies over time, but I'm waking up at 4 in the morning naturally, going to bed very early, and from 4 until noon, I'm working or studying. After that, it's rest and relaxation. Those who follow my podcast know that when I decided to work days and nights continuously, in an always-on mode, it led to breakdowns, both financially and psychologically. Therefore, what we really want is to awaken our love for diligence, instead of viewing it as a punishment or something negative. We can see it as something enjoyable, as it has been an inherent, natural part of human life from the beginning of time. To facilitate this, we can seek something that fits our individual natures. For example, Hercules' nature was suited to protecting the weak because he had a strong, athletic body. Others might be more suited to writing, art, science. Nature has given us unique traits, and from a Stoic viewpoint, our task as humans is to utilize them productively to serve the collective good, whether that be our family, ourselves, those close to us, or leaving the world a bit better than when we arrived. The star in the sky. Seneca tells us that life is short, and we spend most of it wandering aimlessly. How many people meander through life without a purpose, without a goal to channel their energy? As I've mentioned, to feel motivated, we first need a finish line to run towards. We need that star in the sky, whatever that may be, to guide us. The easiest way to live an undisciplined life, like the proverbial beer-drinking, cigarette-smoking uncle who accomplishes nothing, is to lack specific goals. Without aims, our energy quickly shifts to pursuits that don't serve us in the long term. As Marcus Aurelius pointed out, there's another pitfall to avoid: being busy without achieving anything. These individuals tire and wear themselves out without any clear purpose or overarching goal, exhausting themselves without true rewards. In the modern world, we can waste our energy on parties, drinking, gaming, binge-watching series and movies. While there's a time for leisure, the issue arises when we use these activities to numb the pain of procrastination, turning it into a problem. Choosing a specific goal and sidelining everything else benefits those drifting in the wastelands of modernity. Marcus Aurelius advises, stop wandering about. You aren't likely to read your own notebooks, or ancient histories, or the anthems of the ancients. Get busy with life's purpose, toss aside empty hopes, get active in your own rescue, if you care for yourself at all, and do it while you can. Are we going to let others make choices for us, capable though we are of making our own? Will we drift aimlessly, or will we leverage our true power, the ability to choose and act? Being disciplined becomes much easier with a strong, clear goal in mind, keeping our eyes on the finish line and watching it draw closer each day. Building self-confidence as we realize our capabilities and observing progress rewards the process, motivating us to continue and preventing aimless wandering. If you're seeking your weekly dose of motivation and Stoic wisdom applied to modern times, subscribe to the channel. I'm Lucas, signing off until next time. Goodbye.